Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name's Gurinder Singh. This is episode 3 of the JMC Chronicles. This episode is about um, what's going on right now in India, about how our Kisan Veer and sisters and brothers, how um, Bibiya and Babe, they're all at this time trying to have their voices heard, and we out here in the states unfortunately can't be there with them as they're there, but we can do our best to raise awareness. And with me today I have two very special guests, starting with Nav, who, if you want to introduce yourself, you can introduce yourself.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Navraj Kaur, and I'm a visual artist. I mostly make Panthak art, and my handle is at Anandpur Arts. I mostly post on Instagram, and that's where I am active the most.
Awesome. um, so I had met you before, I know at Nishan, hence I'm luckily, coincidentally, I'm wearing the shirt, but I know we've met before, and so that's why when I thought about doing this episode and bringing on a youth member who's very involved and doing it in their unique way, I thought about you first. So thank you so much for joining. And Ria, if you want to introduce yourself too, I know you're part of the JMC board, but also you've done a lot. You're also doing a lot as a youth here in Sacramento and in California as well. So
So Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Riya. So I'm part of United Sex Sacramento, also JMC board. Recently, I wrote an article about India's war against sex, covering different topics like the partition, 1984, a few other things, and it was posted on Awaz, Khalsa, and shared by Sec Expo and a lot of organizations. So I'm definitely very new to this, but thank you for having me.
yeah. I saw your piece and I read it, and then I replied to it immediately saying like it was so amazing. Like I think sometimes like you get, because I've fallen in this trap of like when I see stuff being like posted on Instagram or being posted on Restories on like, sometimes you just like scroll past it, but like when I saw that it said like Ria, I was like, oh, I know this person. So I went and I read it all, and I was like, oh my god, that was so good. So I did, and so that kind of, we can talk about like both your guys' like what you guys have done. Ria, if you, so the article, like how did that come to be? Like were you reached out to? Was that something you wanted to do? Like how did that come to be? Like where did you, how did that, like what took the steps to get to the place where you started writing the article?
Yeah, so I think with anything, you really have to have a passion for what you're doing. And I think with kind of the farmer protests that have been going on, and if you just look back at Sikh history, starting from 47, they didn't give Punjab its own state, the atrocities that happened in 1984, I think it's something that we all grow up with and we're fairly aware of. But I think even the last kind of 20 years, kind of the depleting water table in Punjab, just so many issues that we're going through. I think with this, it's probably a culmination of those things that made me want to write the article. But as far as I think what the tipping point was, I think, very early on in the protest, you started hearing the farmers being labeled terrorists, especially Atwadi. And it's kind of the same thing that they did in AG4 as well, those fake police encounters. And I think when I think, me having family in Chirasi, a lot of us probably do, but seeing that kind of all over again, it really is a repetition of what they've done before. So I think it made me, especially it was well as called the media and how they've kind of manipulated the whole story of what's really going on. It made me want to write and raise awareness, because I think there's so many people in the States that don't really know, because a lot of that media manipulates the story. So that's probably was my inspiration for writing it.
Yeah, I mean, beautifully said. Yeah, I think a lot of people in the States, like I said, is like at this point, because of how much awareness has been put out on social media. I mean, every single time I log on to any of my social media, it's like that's one of the first things I see, and I'm so happy to see that, right? Because like with so many movements, like there's an eclipse and then it starts like dying down, but like this is something that we are gonna fight for as long as we can and keep spreading as much awareness as we can. Now I was gonna just ask you like the same thing about like when you're drawing or when you're, I mean, I've seen you even at like the rallies doing ardas and just leading at rallies as well. Like how, like what inspires you to do like stuff like that? Like I know it's like for me personally, like like doing that is like a little bit like frightening for me, but like what helps you overcome those little fears that you might have?
Yeah, so for me, I definitely do get like those moments where it's like, oh, like I'm not really sure, or like how do I like approach this, like, you know? But then again, like you start thinking about like you what the way I think of it is that like I owe my land, you know, all of this, like who I am today, you know, Punjab has made me who I am today. So it's basically like to think about, it's like, you know, giving back to my tati, to my people. So like once you like start thinking about that, that's when it's like, you know what, like these are like, this is like the least I can do, right? So these like small problems that I'm facing, or if I'm like, you know, being nervous, um then it's like you just like overcome it, do ardas, you're like, you know, like this is what I'm doing it for, like aa soch ke main karan lagi haan. And then yeah, and then you just do it.
Yeah, I think sometimes those like those little fears, like it's in the moment. Like if you would think about doing something like I mean, I've spoken at sometimes at like a rally sometimes, and it's like in front of other people. It's like if you think about it before, it's like a little bit, you can like talk to yourself a little bit, but like it's fine, I got it. And then it's like everything that's gonna happen is gonna happen. Like there's, you can't change you if you think about it too much, it's gonna like you're gonna just, that's what, especially if you think about failing or like stumbling or anything like that, that's what's going to happen because your mind's like just fixated on that. And I think like the, like how you said, like if you just do ardas, if you just calm yourself down, if you just have faith that everything is going to go the way it should go and it's going to go smoothly, like that's the end of the day. Is like if you have that connection with guruji, and like if you have that faith, that's what matters most. And it doesn't matter if the one or two people do speak against you, as long as you feel great, and if an overall message you send is one of like peace and love and everything. And I think that outweighs the one or two negative comments that might come, or the one or two people that might give a look. But I mean, I'm like I said, I've seen you at the rallies. I unfortunately I haven't been able to go there myself, but I mean I've seen the videos. And I mean you've gone to I think the embassy it is in San Francisco a couple of times now. I always see posts about that. Talk a little bit about like how that comes to be, like how your role is about, like a part of that, how you set those things up, like how like I, because I've seen like multiple ones like in a week, and I know that's not easy to plan for like 40, 50 people to come together, or even like as many people as like, how is that, like how are you guys been able to come together so quickly and so often?
Yeah, so first we planned the SF rally. It was basically like anyone who wants to, you know, be part of the organizing team, anyone who wants to do seva, you know, we got everyone together and we did like, you know, Zoom calls and everything. Well, that was a huge success because like, you know, that was the first one and everyone was like filled with emotion and everyone wanted to do something. So after the SF rally, like we didn't know there's gonna be like, you know, a rally every weekend. We didn't know about the Sacramento one or like any other ones. So we were just like, okay, so our rally will be like agge kiya, right? And then yeah, we were just thinking about that there's so much Josh in the Sangat. Like, what do we want to do now? Like we've already done the huge like Josh thing. Like, what else can we do now? And that's when we thought about, you know, going to the concert every single day and doing Rera Sahib. That's what we do now. We go every single day. It's a jatha of like 10 people. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. You know, it just depends on how the schedule is of like all the sangats. So we just go there. We take our signs. There's no nare, none of that. We just, you know, stand there for like an hour, and then we do Rara Sahib, Simran, and then we come back. And actually that makes a lot of impact actually, because like when we're doing the protests with like Josh and like Nare, like of course that makes a huge difference. But when we are silent, ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਚੁੱਪ ਹੁੰਨੇ ਆ, like that hurts them more. Like you can just see that on their faces, like every single day they're like, oh my god, fade again, you know. And like wording, they're like getting out of uh their building and like wording right outside there, and like they're just like, oh god, like they feel embarrassed. Like, and like the first day when we first did it, there were like two BB inside, right, that worked. So they came out and were like on Choppy side, and they recognized, right, that that's Choppy side, because they probably go to the Guru Cut or something, right? And like they went back over a seltake, like, you know, chunni leke, and then they came out again. And we were like, you know, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਆ like what we are doing, why we are doing, right? And then when we do Simran, like you can see the looks on their face. Like some of them are probably not, you know, are probably not in favor of the bill, but you know, it's their job. And so like it does like affect a lot, even if it's just a couple of us, and even if we like, you know, don't do nare or anything. um because bringing it back to Gurbani is like, you know, very important. Gurbani is where it starts, right? Um, for us, sanu sadi, you know, power sari Gurbani to mildi hai. So you have to like, you know, find a way to connect it back to Gurbani. Like that's why all of our rallies, you know, start with Ardas, end with Ardas, and then this was just a good way to, you know, ek ta sangat roj iਕੱਠੀ ਮਿਲ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ, right? We can talk, you know, ਕਦੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ family member ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਉੱਥੇ, ਕਦੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ like, you know, ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਸਾਂਝੀਆਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨਾਲ, and to, you know, even do raras together, you know, that's a lot of another too. So it worked out really well. It's been yesterday was the 24th day that we went there, and yeah, hopefully you know, ਜਿੰਨਾ ਚਿਰ ਉੱਥੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਮੋਰਚਾ, hopefully we can do it till then.
Yeah, that was actually something I wanted to ask, but like I think you answered it already. But like I've seen some places. I mean, I've even heard a couple times that like, oh, doing anything here in America like won't do anything back like in India, and I think that's true. Like that's honestly false. Like they see it, like you said, Nav, like they see it, and like they, even though they might not be in support of the bills, they're gonna still report back to India being like, hey, they're coming here every day, they're doing this every day, they're doing this, or today they're doing this, or today there was this many people. Like they're taking account, like even though they might not like come out and say anything or even stand or see, they know what's going on outside. And it's like them constantly finding out like, is this like, this is not just something that like India is gonna, like this is all over the world, and everybody like who has ties back to Punjab, everybody has ties back to Punjab, and everybody's hurt from these things. Because like I have a ton of family that is still in Punjab, who is farmers, who have kith, and it's like hearing their stories here. When I talk to them, when I've talked to them a couple times, and it's like everybody has ties back. So like even though this might just be like an India thing, it's not. Like this is something that we all, even here in the United States, even in the UK, everywhere else, we all have something, we have to do our part. And I think that's amazing that you guys have been going every day and showing out, because like you said, like they know they are seeing you guys coming. And especially I feel like when you guys are silent, like that's something like they're just like, what are they like, why are they here, what are they doing? And it's like you guys just being there is so much. I'm sorry if I
Yeah,
cut
they
you
do
off, you can
keep
talk.
account of it too. They actually come and record us every single day. Like, um, I guess it's their P, and that's what they call it, because all of their jobs are like the way it is in India, because everything, like their salary, their jobs, everything is like, you know, how it is in India. So he like comes outside. He has like the same type of job too. Like he has to like, you know, open the gate for the consulate, like bring his lunch bag outside, and like it's so funny to see his officer Shahi. Like, you know, he like, there's gonna be one person, that same guy, he's gonna come and start his car for 10 minutes, right? Bella. And then after 10 minutes, he's gonna come and put his lunch bag in the car. And after 5 minutes, he's gonna come and get his water bottle. And then he's gonna come with his papers. And then finally, the guy comes out and they're like opening doors for him. And then they're gonna open the car door, and then they're gonna be like a right. So it's like funny to see, like it's just one person, and there's like bunch of other people like, you know, running around them, and like they're like recording us too at the same time, like aa dekho. And like this one day, this one uncle was just standing there, right? And he didn't realize there was like a like odi gaddi nikkan lagi si, right? Unne horn nahi kita, kuch nahi kita, calls the police. They're blocking the consulate's car. And we were like, what? And then we actually did. We were like, oh, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ, right? He was like, no, this is not the right way. You can't stop a vehicle, like blah blah blah. And then they called the police, and it was funny because the police guy, oh, Arno had to get, right, because they already know like ye ta roj aunde hai. And we like explained everything to them too. And there's this one African American police officer, right? And he has the same like issue back home for him too. And he was like, oh, like I understand, right? So they don't come anymore. They don't care anymore. And he came, he was like, they didn't even do anything to your car. Oh God, it was so funny. And they were like recording like everyone's face, and we were like, wow, like did you get anything out of it? Like it was hilarious. It was like a moment.
Yeah, I can think why he did it. He wanted the police to come and like move you guys out the way or like do something to you guys. But like, if you guys are not doing anything wrong, then the police are not gonna do anything. And I think that's something, him being part of the Indian, or if like how it if it works how it works in India, like he thinks it's just how like India is. He can call the police and they'll do whatever they would, like whatever he says, like they're just gonna do what he says, right? And I don't know if he doesn't know about USA, but like that's not how it works here. Like as long, well, I don't want to say it doesn't, but like there's limits to things that like how it works here. And I feel like that's just really funny that like if one uncle was just in the way for like 2 seconds, he's calling the police to try to like move you guys all. But so the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is like the youth is like, some people have said like the youth is being like is stepping up in some senses here, even in back in India, but even here in the States and in UK. Ria, you being like, I mean, we're all pretty young and we're all pretty much part of the youth, but like like has there been any like obstacles? Has anybody like older said something like, because I know I've sometimes came across like when I was trying to do something or advocate for something, like I've been like told like बच्चियां का काम नहीं हैगा, or like something like that, right? And it's like, have you ever had to like encounter that, or like recently with anything? Or I know because you have been working with like United Sick and you've been out there already, like have you ever had to like encounter that, and like how do you overcome those type of things?
Yeah, so I think, just to begin with some background, I think my path is so different than what I see to a lot of other kids, just because I was born in England, and, even there, I went to like a kind of St. Bartholomew's, like a Protestant school. Even here, I went to very, I would say, predominantly white school. So I think my I would probably say I was probably a lot more distant from the Punjabi community, unfortunately. So I think me kind of starting off there, I think my dad is Amritari though, so I definitely had guidance, and my mum being so attached. But I think with that, the kind of them, I think telling me about some of these different events that happened before in our past, and then my kind of journey to really my own understanding of what happened, why happened, who was involved. I think then me kind of writing about it, I definitely in the beginning, it was kind of, there is a lot of fear when you first hear about, you hear about what happened to Kalra and you hear about what happened to Jaggi, and then you think, me speaking out, well, could I be next? There definitely is that fear. But I think, it's what Nav, you were actually saying before. I think, you think about what our guru did and what everybody's done before us, and it is your duty to speak out. But as far as obstacles go, I think, there is always, you have to remember that you are a minority, you are like less than 2%. You are going to have a lot of people that are not going to be happy about you speaking out, just because it does highlight the brutalities and the atrocities that they've committed. Even posting this article, I definitely had like 10 or 15 people that were like, this is fake, or, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And, you definitely do have a lot of criticism, but I think, you need to know that what you're talking is the truth. And, like I said, the guru, when you look at our history, and not just our guru, but Bindrawala and so many other big names that have done their kurbaniya for our qawm, you speaking out, it's not that big a deal because it's the right thing to do. So I think that's where it goes with it. Also, I've had more support, I would say, than anything else. You know, I was very grateful. I've seen so many Davis students and so many other people posting it up after that, and just the, you know, the other sec organizations that were posting it. So, you know, a lot of appreciation. As far as the negativity, you know, you can't, if 10 people or 15 people come out and say, you know, this isn't true, you know, you have to recognize Modi and the government does spend a lot of money to monitor what's going on IG, and so many their kind of tactics. You have to keep that in mind. And as long as you're speaking the truth, I think what somebody else says shouldn't really matter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've kind of seen, because like I mean, on Twitter is where like the multi bots live a lot. Like I'll see like somebody post about like what's going on or speak about anything about Sikhi, and somebody with zero followers, zero following, and like some random picture on their profile thing with like no tweet, they'll just like start like talking back or saying like, "Oh, you're lying. You don't know what you're talking about," and stuff like that. And it's like those are basically people that have been are filtering out or trying to put down other people that are a part of the government of India and like Modi and all that. So it's like it is. I've definitely seen that. Like even um, I mean, to talk about like some like famous people in terms of India, like there's been some like actresses and people that have spoken against like famous, like I know like the main one is like Diljit, but there's also other people that they've attacked saying that like they don't know what they're talking about and stuff like that. And it's like they're the only people that know what they're talking about, I guess. But you're definitely true that like every time, even though you think you've done something good for your community, there is always going to be somebody that's going to say like you don't know what you're talking about or you're wrong or anything. That's just going to happen. But it's like those things can't stop us, because like if that does stop us, then like we will then eventually like all of us would stop and then nobody would have a voice, you know. um Now for you personally, I know like we talked a little bit about like the art piece and like you had to explain yourself a little bit. Like could you talk more about like how you like as an artist have to go through so much about in terms of like making sure you've done right things and you making sure like you've explained yourself so you don't come across as doing any wrong, or but like how is that, like how's that work for you? Like when how did you start hearing about like people talking about like you maybe have done something wrong with your art piece? Like how did that come to be?
Honestly, like I had stopped explaining myself for a long time now. This today, like it happened after a very long time, because at this point I was just like, it like doesn't really matter, you know. Whatever I draw, whatever I do, right? Um, there's always gonna be people who are against it. There's always gonna be people who are gonna, you know, write those comments or whatever. There's like that's gonna keep happening, right? But like today it was different because it was related to the art piece was related to Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. So for that, I was like, you know, I don't want to like hurt anyone's feelings, because usually like koi hor art piece or either if it's about like shaheeds, you know, there's always gonna be like bots or like even some apne who are like, you know, ki nahi ta atwadi ne or whatever, right? That like I don't really like talk about that anymore. Like ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੰਨਦੇ like okay fine, like you know I'm doing prachar, right? So if that's not what you want, then I mean like I don't know how to help you. Like math ਤਾਂ ਉਤਾਰਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗੀ ਕੁਛ. But today I had to explain myself because I drew I had this like image in my mind of like you know like Bajorg Bapus and like the Sangat in general, right? Like because right now they're fighting for their sense of belonging, like their land, even though a lot of people won't agree with this, but they're fighting for Sikhi at some point, right? Because you cannot imagine Punjab's Tarti without Sikhi. Like they go hand in hand. And I don't think there's like a very big like, you know, you can't really have another take on this. Like it's kind of like a given, like Punjab di Tarti, Sikhi, like they go like, you know, together. So I was just like, you know, thinking about this, that, you know, Maharaj Sache Badshah, like, you know, Othe Vasdeya right now at the Mocha, right? Their day starts with Nityanem, their day ends with Rara Sahib Kirtan Soila. Guru Maharaj Sahib is there, right? like there's something that is giving them strength, even though there's propaganda, like, you know, they're saying ਅਸੀਂ religion ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈਗੀ, it's just farmers versus the government. But you also have to realize that even though that's the point, you have to realize who is being targeted the most, like ਕਿਹੜੀ ਧਿਰ ਨੂੰ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਖਤਰਾ ਆ ਇਹਦੇ ਤੋਂ, and who is, you know, at the front. And you have to agree it's 90%, 95% Sikhs who have led the morcha, right? So while thinking about that, I was like, you know, all of our sangat at least is getting their strength from Guru Maharaj. And so I was we were actually watching Char Sahibzade the other day again. And before Chamkaur di Jang, the night before that, Guru Maharaj Sacha Pacha were, you know, Jani Jar, they knew, like, you know, who was gonna obtain Shahidi tomorrow. So that night, Maharaj is just, you know, looking at all the sayings, and he knows like Kalnu ki ne Shahidi paani hai, right? So he's just like looking at sayings. He tied their Jina diyan dastaran khuliyan si, he tied their dastaran, you know, he massaged their feet, and like jide sat lagi si, he did malam patti. So I feel like it was important to show that side of Guru Maharaj as well, because people see Guru Gobind Singh Ji as like, I don't know, people have this like line between, a lot of Sangat does, unfortunately, between like Guru Nanak Dev Ji and like the other Padshahs, and specifically Guru Gobind Singh Ji, because Guru Nanak Dev Ji, to like, you know, most people, because of how, you know, Guru Maharaj, like, you know, quotes are portrayed like galt bana dende are, like, oh, before being a Sikh, be a human, like, you know. So because of those, like, you know, false information, there's that disconnect between the Padshahis, right? So people think that Guru Nanak Dev Ji is the person who told us, you know, langar shakao, like, you know, unity, peace. But that wasn't, like, you know, everything Guru Nanak Dev Ji talked about. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's falsafa was way more than, you know, just seva and langar. And there's the reason why Guru Gobind Singh Ji seems like, not to me, but the image that has that people have created of Guru Gobind Singh Ji is that he was like a strict king who, like, you know, enforced all of this, and he was like Shastra Chako, you know. So that was always like odd to a lot of people. So it was always like, Asi Guru Nanak Sahib de Sikh Khan, Asi Guru Nanak Sahib de Sikh Khan, even though it's the same jot with just a different. Even though Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj were our guru, and we respect him as a guru, and we should, you know, saadi zimmewari aa that we ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਸਤਿਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਦਈਏ, right? ਪਰ ਉਹ ਸਤਿਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਆਖਿਆ, right? ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਔਲਾਦਾਂ ਆ, right? So he also gives it back in ਪਿਆਰ ਦੇ ਰੂਪ ਵਿੱਚ. Guru Maharaj has that bond, that connection with his Sikhs, right? ਤੇ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਘੱਟ ਦਿਖਾਇਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ. It's usually just like Guru Maharaj, oh, ਅਸੀਂ ਸ਼ਾਸਤਰ ਧਾਰਨ ਕਰਨੇ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਛਕਣਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਏਦਾਂ, right? But they don't understand that there's a huge, like, deep connection between Guru Maharaj and his Sikhs. Guru Sahib isn't like sitting somewhere on his throne, right? Like giving orders or anything. Like, he loves his Sikhs. Guru Maharaj apne Gursikhs nu bahut zyada pyar karte a, and that's why there's that sakhi, right? Guru Maharaj can do anything for his Sikhs, है ना? कई पटके भी हुंदे आ, you know, everyone isn't a perfect Sikh, right? Because ज़्यादातर मैंने hate ही आ रही सी कि, oh, you showed that Guru Maharaj is sitting next to the feet of this thing, and this is disrespectful to Guru Maharaj. And I understand that point of view, of course, right? Because when you first look at it, it's like, oh, like Guru Gobind Singh Ji is sitting here, and there's this thing, you know, laying down, like what's going on. But the thing is, it's to show that that pyar that Guru Maharaj is giving back to the Sangat. Je ਇੱਕ ਸਿੱਖ ਦਿਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣੀ ਧਰਤੀ ਲਈ, ਸਿੱਖੀ ਲਈ ਲੜਦਾ ਆ, ਤਾਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਰਾਤ ਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਸਿੱਖ ਲਈ ਪਹਿਰੇਦਾਰੀ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹਦੀ ਰਾਖੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, right? So because of that, there's like people are reporting it and stuff, but honestly, I'm not gonna take it off. I feel like it's such an emotional piece. Whenever I look at it, like, I almost tear up every single time, and I don't want to take it off. I feel like even though this is something nobody really like wants to like see, like it's mostly like Guru Maharaj, right? And then there's like, Sikh, right? But like Guru Maharaj ਤੇ Sikh ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ um ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਆ ਉਹ ਸਮਝਣਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਆ because it's not like ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੀ ਪੂਜਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ, right? ਗੁਰੂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਇੱਕ ਜੋਤ ਨੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪੂਜਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ, ਪਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਜਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਗੁਰੂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਮੰਨਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਬਟ ਗੁਰੂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਸਮਝਣਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਆ। So because of that, I'm not going to take it off. So yeah, but ਜਿਹੜੀ hate ਆਉਂਦੀ ਵੀ ਆ, like I explained myself once, like, after this, it's like, it is what it is. ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ, like ਕਰ ਦੇਣ, like it doesn't really matter anymore. ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਆਪਣੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਹਿਤੀ ਤੇ yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what you should do. You shouldn't take it down if you feel like I made this point a little bit earlier. Like if you feel like what you done is not coming from a place of hate, not coming from a place of wrongdoing, like what your aim of the art was peace, and it was love, and it was about Guruji being there, and how and also being in some way being there for the Sikhs that are there right now. There's a couple points that you brought up that I want to kind of talk about. It's like one of the first things was like, I know, like, so when the farmers were still first getting together and they were first going towards Delhi, nobody really had made it into a Khalistani thing. Nobody had, but like the government started name dropping, like they just, and I just, and they're like, they're sick. They're talking about sick. And I don't understand. And like now, even now, some people are like, oh, don't say sick, like say farmers, or don't show like a kanda, show like a green flag. I was like, why would we have to hide who we are? Why do we have to hide like what we are? And like now you said, like our tarti of Punjab, like our keth, our land is connected to us, like hand in hand. It's connected to our faith. It's connected to Sikhi. It's like you can't like one without the other does not like make any sense back in Punjab. And like for us to be getting our land taken away from us, yet we can't say that we are Sikh, we are this. And it's like I that's something that I was always like, why? It's like almost talked down upon, like, oh, don't say you're a Sikh, or don't say this, like you're here because like it's for a Sikhi thing. But I'm like, this is one of many, like how Riya, I know you wrote the piece about like this is just one example of a bunch of examples what the government has done against Sikhs. And it's like if you want to elaborate a little bit more, because I mean you did the whole piece about like how everything that happened in 1984, all the events after that led to it, all the events before, like if you want to talk a little bit about, because like I feel as though like this is one like event that has been taking place out of the whole spectrum of what has happened against Sikhs, against our people. And if you want to elaborate a little bit more about that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a very good point. I know a lot of the little hate that I got at the end for the piece was about me calling that a lot of the farmers are Sikh. When you see these talks that are happening there, if you can't try to censor it that much either. There are a lot of Sikh there. There are a lot of Sikh at the forefront, and they want to say this is a Kisan movement, and I do agree this is a Kisan movement, but it's a Sikh movement as well, and it is a Punjab movement. And to try to change that narrative, I think my perspective on it is if you start saying it's a Sikh movement, they are so terrified of Khalistan. If you look at the amount of demonization in the media that Khalistani aya. And then if you look at that, I think they're absolutely frightened. They've made Khalistan into this kind of like boogie word almost. And, when they put it in the media, it's this whole intention of kind of one splitting the country. And they do make it a religious thing every single time. So I think with them, they don't want to call it a Sikh movement, because if you look at, they're terrorizing the Sikh, it brings up the history too. They did it in 47, they did it in 84. They've done it, even the pumping the drugs in Punjab, what Badal's doing, even the way the land was split, the depleting water, it brings up so many of the questions. Then people are going to start asking, are they targeting Sikh? And the answer is yes. And I think even with Punjab itself, and I'm not saying any of the other states won't be affected by this bill, but Punjab, if you look at especially the effects on Punjab, it does highlight those things. So I think their whole purpose is to no longer call it anything. They don't want to put sec in front, because I think it brings out so many of the atrocities they have committed to sec before. But I do agree with one thing, and I do always want to emphasize it is a farmer movement, because there are so many farmers in India and it does affect everyone. But their whole purpose, you have to recognize, they have targeted sec in the past, they're doing it now, and they always will, because that's, if you look at RSS, BJP, that is their purpose. They do want to kind of eliminate minorities in general. So I think that is their whole reasoning behind it. And I think they've deluded the country. There's so many people, I watched their interviews, and if you just ask them, well, what good has Modi done for the country? They're just, pro Modi without even knowing anything. So I think you have to recognize that there's so much propaganda, there's so much false information, and I think that's why they don't want to put the sec name out there. But if you look at the sec farmers too, they haven't, whether they're Khalistani or not, it's not part of this issue right now, because this is about the three bills. Whether they're Khalistani or not has nothing to do. And they just want, and the thing is, their whole purpose of bringing the Khalistani in is to kind of push the issue away. They want to make this out into their narrative. And so I think you have to be careful with that. But, I think those are probably the primary reasons why they don't want to put the SEC name in front. But, the SEC have done, even in 47, the Qurbani that Bhagab Singh and all them, so many others have given, if they don't want to recognize it, that's kind of, what they've always done. But we need to know that, we should be very proud of who we are. We should be proud of what we've done in the past, what we're doing now. And I don't think, whether age or marji bolan, it shouldn't matter to us at all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Again, I don't. I know I asked the question, but that's not me trying to say that like this is a Khalistan, this is a Sikhi. It is at the end of the day a farmers' protest, a Kisan movement. But like I don't like the fact that it's like it's almost talked upon like Sikhs have to say they're not, like they can't openly say they're Sikh, they're not called like that. That's something that's like that's why I was a little bit hurt about it, because I was like, so to save their way of life, their farming, that's their way of life. To save that, they have to mask who they are. They can't say they're a Sikh. They can't say certain things because it's taken as a bad thing. It's like if they say it, then it's like it's turned into this thing of like, oh, they're against, they want to eliminate. No, they just want their way of life. Like they just want their way of life not to be changed, want not to be taken away from them, which these bills are doing. And again, I'm not the biggest expert of everything that's going on, but if I'm not mistaken, like these bills had been passed in all the other states before it came to Punjab. Like Punjab was more of the one of the last states that they want to implement these bills into. And it's like once that when it came to them implementing them into Punjab, that's when the Kisan movement started. And that's when they started being like, no, this is not what we want. This is, and then that's why the movement started growing and growing from all over India. Because but at the beginning it started in Punjab, and that's like something that I feel like it's being ignored and it's like being censored down to, because they're like, oh, you can't say that you're Punjabi, you can only say you're a farmer. Oh, you can't say that you're Sikh, you can only say you're a farmer. And I was like, so that's just I felt like that's kind of like dehumanizing like as a person, because like I have to hide my faith to show support. Um, Not if you have any comments or anything you would like to add to that. I know it's like a touchy subject for everybody, but I feel like it has to be like it has to be talked about.
Yeah, so what I think about this situation is that almost they're like playing a reverse card with all of us, because it's like um ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਐਕਸਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਨ ਐਕਸਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਹੋਣ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪਾਬੰਦੀ ਲਾਤੀ, right? ਹਜੇ movement start ਹੋਈ ਸੀ, and what you see now is that because of that ਆਪਣੇ ਲੋਕੀ are saying ਨਹੀਂ ਕੇਸਰੀ ਝੰਡੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਣੇ, ਹਰੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਣੇ ਆ, ਆਪਾਂ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੈਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਸਿਰਫ ਕਿਸਾਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਲੈਣਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕੇਸਰੀ ਦਸਤਾਰਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੰਨਣੀਆਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਹਰੀ ਦਸਤਾਰਾਂ ਬੰਨਣੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਉਹ ਫਿਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਲੋਕ ਆਪ ਹੀ ਸੈਂਸਰ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਆਪ ਹੀ ਸੈਂਸਰ ਕਰੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਿੱਧਰ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣੀ ਹੈ, ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਵਿਦ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕਮਸ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀ, ਵਿਦ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕਮਸ ਰਾਜ। ਯੂ ਨੋ ਦੈਟਸ ਨਾਟ ਸਮਥਿੰਗ ਯੂ ਆਰ ਗੋਣਾ ਟੇਕ, ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਅੱਡ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ। ਐਂਡ because of that you have to understand ਜਿੱਥੋਂ movement ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਚੋਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ movement ਸਿਰਫ ਬਿੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀ you have to you have to agree on that because the farmer unions they were only talking about MSP ki bill aage okay but sanu MSP assure kar do right and farmer unions said ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਿਆ ਸੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਰੁਕ ਜਾਣਾ but that didn't happen either so you have to understand that for Punjab at least ਜਿਹਨੇ movement start ਕੀਤੀ ਆ right ਜਿਹਨੂੰ credit ਮਿਲਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ movement start ਕੀਤੀ ਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਿਰਫ ਬਿੱਲਾਂ ਲਈ movement start ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਕਹਾਵਤ ਆ ਕਿ ਪਾਪਾ ਦਾ ਘੜਾ ਭਰਦਾ ਭਰਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਉਛਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਆ so like how parent talked about we have the water issue, we have our Mabuli issue, we have electricity issue, we have our Paniyanda issue. So all of that plus trauma from 84, from 47, all that built up and the bills were like, the last thing that went into the kada, kada fataya. So for at least Punjab, it's like, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਅੱਡ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੀ so of course ਜਦੋਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਆਉਣੀ ਆ ਰਾਜ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਉਣੀ ਆ cuz ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਲਈ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕਮਾਉਣੀ ਇੱਕ sovereign ਰਹਿਣਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਆ and when that gets taken away from you when your land is getting taken away from you when your water is getting going to get away from you ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਤੋਂ ਖੋਈ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ they already know ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਾਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ like ਅਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਰਹਿਣਾ what else just come to your mind that's just a given you're gonna talk about Raj which is not wrong at all but ਹੁਣ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਪੇਗੈਂਡਾ ਚਲਾਤਾ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨੀ ਆ ਗਏ right ਹੁਣ ਉੱਥੇ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ because of that ਸਾਡੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫੋਰਸ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਫਿਰ ਯੂਨੀਅਨਾਂ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਾਉਣੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਿਸਾਨ ਮੂਵਮੈਂਟ ਆ right ਤੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਇਮੋਸ਼ਨ ਦਬਾ ਕੇ ਰੱਖਣੇ ਪੈਂਦੇ ਆ it's not that they don't want Khalistan it's not that ਕਿ ਉਹ ਅੱਡ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ right ਕਿੰਨੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੀ ਜਾਨ ਖਾ ਲਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਅੱਡ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ right it's not that they're declining the idea of Badshahi they're now just being forced to be like ਨਹੀਂ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ then you're going to ruin it for everyone else like ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆ ਗੱਲ ਹੀ ਨਾ ਕਰੋ so now because of that you have to understand that now they're saying things like oh ਨਹੀਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਡ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਫਿਰ ਕੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਉਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਰਹਿਣਾ it's because now they're coming from that state of nirasha now it's like upsetting for them right ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਡ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਚਲੋ ਫਿਰ ਹੁਣ ਐਵੇਂ ਕਹਿ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਜੇ ਅੱਡ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਫਿਰ ਕੀ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਲੋਕ ਤਾਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਫਿਰ ਬਾਦਲਾਂ ਵਰਗੇ ਲੋਕ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਣਾ then you start thinking about all the things ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਨੇ because people of Punjab have seen Badlan's leadership they've seen the Congress leadership ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਆ ਗਦਾਰੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ they went through all of that so for now it's just like ਇੱਕ upsetting mindset ਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ emotion express ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ media ਕਰਕੇ plus the farmer unions they don't let you express your emotions and now it's just like okay ਜਿਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਵੇਂ ਕਰ ਲੈਣੇ ਆ for now ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਬਿੱਲਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਬਾਕੀ ਸਟੇਟਸ ਵੀ ਆ ਗਏ ਨੇ ਰਾਈਟ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਵਾਲਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਬੰਦ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਵਾਪਸ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਫੇਰ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਵਾਲੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਉੱਤੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ so for now it's like ਥੋੜੀ ਨਿਰਾਸ਼ਾ ਵੀ ਹੈ because I have family there and I keep asking them ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਤਾਂ ਏਦਾਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਯਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ I guess ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ or something right like ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਬਿੱਲੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਨੇ no but that's not true ਉੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਲੋਕ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ like yeah like ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਤੰਗ ਆ but ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਬੋਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ right we can't we have that pressure ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਆ ਜੰਗ ਫਤਿਹ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ ਫਿਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਵਾਪਸ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੀ own ਜੰਗ ਫਤਿਹ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ
Yeah, totally. I agree. I think we've all basically talked around the same point about like I know Riya, you started off by saying like they have created this fear mongering of like the label of Khalistani. Like it's like the government has made that into like because they say Atavadi. That's like the one thing that's linked to Khalistan is like Atavadi right away. Like you don't even like it's like there and then like so they did that before everything like how I still remember like the first days of like of people going to Delhi, of the march to Delhi, and they were already calling them Khalistanis. Like they're like, oh, Atavadiya, they're coming to Delhi, this and that. Like they were already painting the at the time just people that were marching, just they were just going towards Delhi at the first part. They were already starting to label them. So that, and then like how Nav said, like that plays into like their psyche a little bit. Like once we do, if with someone does ask us anything, we can't say Khalistani because they've already made us out to be Atavadi. And like if we say it, then maybe like everything that we've done is basically for like it's gonna go down the drain because they're just gonna keep labeling us as Atavadis, and at the end of the day, that's not it's like I said, I mean I said the thing about like they almost have to suppress who they are, and they have to suppress their feelings, like how Nav was saying that they have to suppress their like emotions, they have to hold them in, because like if they do speak out, if they do, it's like everything that they've worked for so far is like it's gonna like right now it's gonna, that's why they said let's just do what we have to do now, and then we'll take care of everything, which is like that's so sad to think about, right? It's like they're so like attacked, they're so looked at, like it's so much has gone against them that they can't even like be themselves anymore at this point, like they have to hide who they truly are. And that's like that for me is something that like makes me really sad, is like how can you live in a spot, call that your home, call that your home country, like it's like how can they call it their home, like India, like is they're like, oh, you the Punjab is part of India, you should be proud of like India, and I'm like, how can you ask them to be proud of that, like when you do all these things to them? Like of course they're not going to be proud to be like I'm a, and like sometimes like people like I mean in the States, like, oh, I'm a Punjabi, I'm not an Indian, and it's like these things they don't happen overnight. Like this has been like you guys have said, like the the water issues, the water crises, the electricity, how it's like there still is not sustainable electricity in places, and like the water, like how what happened in 47, what happened in 84, and all the events that are still happening after 84. Like it's not stopped. It happens to this day. And it's like you can't like how can on one hand you say like, oh, you should be happy of where you live, and then on the other hand, like you can't speak out if anything you think is wrong. Like it's I feel like that's unfair, and I hope it changes for the better, because it's just like it's really sad to like when you think about those type of things. Um, a little bit to like close off a little bit, we can go back about like how, again, like I said, we're all part of the youth. I mean, this podcast is really another form of like art, or like a way of how we're going to express and raise awareness. And like I thoroughly enjoyed the conversations that we've had. And one thing I wanted to ask you guys is like when I have seen people talk about the podcast, because I mean I've been working on it so hardly, and like when people like commend me on it or like say like, oh, you're doing a great job, keep it up and all this, like for you guys, I've seen like Riya, I know your piece was reposted a lot. Like I saw it all over the place. I saw it on so many stories, and you already had touched on about like how a lot of people in Davis, a lot of people have reached out to you saying that, oh, you did such an amazing job. Like when you have so much like outpour of like of love and support, like how does that make you feel as like somebody that like might not like I said, like sometimes when you are writing an article or doing a piece or talking, it's like you have these fears, but like afterwards when you've done it and like you have so much support and love afterwards, like how does that like just like summarize that for me, like how does that make you feel?
Yeah, definitely. So I think with anything, posting it, the whole purpose behind it was really just to raise awareness. And I think the post was simplified to that extent that, even people who aren't Sikh or aren't Indian, Jakara, Yakala, they can understand, exactly what's going on. So I think with the amount of support I got, it's just a very humbling experience, I think, overall, because it was my first written article on IG, and for it to kind of go as far as it did, is very humbling. But I think, more than that, my thing is so small. There's so many people before me that have done so much more, so many people after me. And I think when you look, you have to look at the Gurban, you look at like big names like Khalera, Jaggi, our Guru, Binderwal, when they've done so much for us, me just putting an article out there that just says the truth of what happened, it's so small in the effect. So I think, you have to be humble, you have to understand that this is one part of such a bigger movement altogether. I think the support at Davis, I'm just so thankful overall. I saw so many kids posting it up and then sharing it. And then I saw this shout out from Sec Expo, and it was very humbling, I would say, overall. But I think it's just, you have to remind yourself, even going after this, that's one piece, but you have to continue, you have to raise awareness, not just the past atrocities, what's happening in Punjab now. And you just have to make people aware, because there is, I know there's the CSYA did a little discussion a little while ago with Deep Sidhu and everyone. And, I think I agree with what the professor was saying so much. You have to write, you have to make your voice heard, post, what you're doing, now you're doing as well with art and everything. You have to make posts. And I think when enough people do it, you raise enough awareness. And I think that's where this really needs to go. You just need to speak out.
Yeah, totally. I think so the point that you touched on, like there have been so many people that have come before us, and there are so many people that are going to come after us. And I feel as though like when I read your piece, and when I see now I see you doing your art and raising your awareness. You guys are both raising awareness in your guys' own unique way, and for that, like that's like for me that was inspiring to me. But like also it's inspiring to other people. Like I know, like you said, like there's going to be people after us that come, and even like probably now the people a little bit younger than us that might have like second doubts of like, oh, I'm too young, I shouldn't say anything or anything like that. But like seeing you guys, seeing like people of like the younger generation do stuff like unique ways, like I mean everybody can just stand in front of I mean do an interview and talk, but like not with like doing your art pieces, like that's a different way of connecting, not just you to like your son, but like connecting other people to the like the movement. And I think that's an amazing way. Like I keep saying this over and over again, but like I'm like this is like your guys' like your art and your piece was like it was like a different way of like influencing others, in my opinion, because like when I saw it I was like, oh my god, like um this is so amazing. I mean, now I wish I could draw as close as you do, or do anything as dope as you do. But like those things like is gonna inspire other people. And I hope like you guys, even though you guys might think like what you guys do isn't like nothing compared to those that have come before us, but like what you guys are doing and what you guys are gonna keep doing is really inspiring others. And I commend you and I applaud for you guys as much as I can for that. Now I was gonna just ask you the same question I asked Riya before about like because I saw you because I follow Sick Expo too, and I saw that they had reposted your thing, and I was on your page when I saw like the art piece, and it's like you take pride into like if somebody is gonna repost it, like give you credit. Like I feel like that's something like that some people don't see. Like yeah, the art is like it's gonna speak for it, but like the artist is just as important as the art piece, the single art piece. And like I feel like how do you feel when you see your piece being like distributed all across like social media and like people are talking about it?
I mean, again, how Riya Baran said, you like start to feel like grateful and ਐਦਾਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੰਮ like waste ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਗਿਆ, like ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੇਖ ਲਿਆ, ਪਸੰਦ ਕੀਤਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ share ਕੀਤਾ. But then again, how Baran said, it doesn't stop there. You have to understand that this is only like this is compared to everything else, this is like the least I can do, everyone has like any ਸਾਡੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਤੇਜ਼ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਹੈ, and like in between that, like whatever we do time ਕੱਢ ਕੇ it is important. But then again, I guess the most important thing is you don't get hankar off of it, right? You don't want to get that ego, like ਜਿੱਦਾਂ like ਕਹਿ ਲਓ self worth ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ earn ਕਰਨੀ, and then there's ego. As long as you have that line in between those two, and I don't want I do want to keep like I do want to be like ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਤੇ ਭਰੋਸਾ ਵੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, but ਮੈਂ ਹੰਕਾਰ ਤੱਕ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਾ, because it's either ਜਾਂ ਏਦਾਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੇਟ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਹੇਟ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਤੋਂ ਭਰੋਸਾ ਘਟਦਾ, ਤੇ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਪਿਆਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਹੰਕਾਰ ਵਾਲੀ ਲਾਈਨ ਚ ਲੈ ਜਾਂਦਾ so you just have to like keep that balance in between those because and sometimes um I mean ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਔਖੀ ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ like ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ how to put yourself out there by saying I'm not gonna let you like steal my work like or like calling people out for like stealing or something but at the same time like you don't want the sangat to feel like oh like she's just showing hankar or she's just like showing her ego so you just have to like keep balance in between that and keep doing what you're doing because um ਜਿੰਨੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰੋ it's never done like you can't say like oh like my art like I did it that's never the thing I'm doing it and as long as you're in that doing part then um ਜਿੰਨੀ ਵੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਹੁੰਦੀ I encourage everyone to find your role like ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ said oh Navraj I wish I could draw like Nate like no I can't do podcasts man like you're doing that so you have to find your role if you can give good speeches like then you need to start doing that if you're good at making presentations and presenting then do that ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਲਿਖਣ ਚ ਹੱਥ ਵਧੀਆ then you're right so you just have to like find your role in the moment ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ contribute ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ rather than thinking like ਕਿ ਉਹ like ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਲਿਖਦੇ ਆ like ਮੈਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ right ਹਰੇਕ ਬੰਦਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਚੀਜ਼ 'ਚ ਵਧੀਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਕਿਸੇ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਬਿਹਤਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਕਿਸੇ ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟ ਹੁੰਦਾ but at the end of the day ਜੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ it counts.
Yeah, totally. Like I said, like you said, like the ego and the hatred, like there is like a where ego and like self love, like there is a line, and I feel like some people like if you the one thing that is seva if you say that oh I did seva or I did this I did that like then you've gotten to the place where like it's ego because you're starting to list out like what you've done instead of being like I'm doing this today. Like instead of you doing seva for yourself and doing seva to betterment of the sangat and betterment of like connecting to Guruji, like instead of that, you're just like listing off like what you've done. Like you've gotten to the place where you're only doing it for the love, for the like the attention that it's bringing to you, instead of doing it for the actual reason why that you first initially attended it to. And I feel like that's I mean, you said that perfectly about like once if you have an art piece, right? Let's just say like somebody like if you are going to if you did get a lot of love and a support for the like one of the pieces you did do, instead of like let's say like I know you're not going to do this, but like some people might get into the trick of like oh look how much likes or views or whatever, like how look how many people have posted like and some people get in those Jakara, and it's like those things are like what gets you, and it's like once you start doing that like it's you've started a little bit going backwards from what you initially attended. And I'm like I couldn't say more like about like doing your role in the movement is just as important as anybody else doing their role. Like um if you can't if you find your way of doing something, even if it is like if you think to like you doing something is never little less than anybody else. Like you're doing it for the betterment of yourself, for the betterment of the sangat in your way, so that to don't like think down about like what you're doing compared to others. um I think that's all. Like that's usually like I have. That's all I have. But if you guys have anything you guys want to share, any closing remarks or anything, um, I I would love to hear anything. If not, then we can just call it an episode there. Anybody, if you guys want to say anything, no.
I just wanted to say thank you Weir, for doing these podcasts again like it's about finding your role and I'm glad that you started this I'm sure you're gonna keep doing this and I'm gonna listen to all of your podcasts and always support you and then thank you for supporting me and I'm glad I got to also listen to Riya because I had seen the article but like I didn't know who like Riya was so I'm glad like ਏਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ like ਹੋਰ ਸੰਗਤ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹੋ through events through different meetings through different ways of conversation so thank you Veer, for leading this conversation.
Yeah, Ria, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think you said it so perfectly, Honmaki Kama. That was so perfect. But yeah, I think I encourage everyone, speak out. Like you're saying, find your role. And I think I did hear a lot to the Loki to the Dardeya, Jimabol, Jimabol, I think you just have to know that Rab sab kuch dekhda hai, if you're fighting for the truth, you're speaking for the truth, you know that's all that matters at this point. And I think you just need to keep that in your mind, keep that in your heart before you write or draw or anything. And you go really far if you keep that mentality. But thank you for both of you.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I can't sing you guys' praises any more than I have already, but thank you so much for being who you guys are. I mean, I look forward to the next art piece of yours, Nav. I look forward to the next article of yours, Ria. I know we work a little bit more because we're on this JMC board, but like even like I didn't know you were gonna like that was something you were working on or something you were gonna post, but because like when I saw it, I was like, yo, it says Ria share. I was like, I know this person, and I was like, that's so amazing, and like though that like it was like a pleasant surprise when I saw that, right? But like again, thank you both you guys for joining. I would love to have you guys back anytime in the future. Um, I think there was an amazing conversation today. There's still so much more to talk about, and I would love to do one again in the future. Um, for me, any closing remarks for me is that like what's going on is it's happening, and we can't give up anytime soon. Like even though like we are not there, we are still there in spirit. And for sure like they hear like we are going to support them, not because of us. We're supporting them because of them. Like this is their way of life, this is how they live, and they need us to support them. And I feel like as long as we keep raising awareness, we have to keep fighting for them, and eventually hopefully one day it does get better. um, but with that, I mean, so this episode is also, I'm going to say this again, so it's also available on SoundCloud. If you guys do want to listen to it without the video version of it, it's on SoundCloud. It's jmc.ucd. This is found on our Instagram. um, if you have any comments, questions, or if you have any ideas for a future one, or if you want to join, please DM us on Instagram at jmc.ucd. But other than that, I got nothing else to say. Again, thank you to our two guests, for Nav and Ria, for joining me today. Um, with that, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.